Folks, I am beyond delighted and excited to introduce our guest today, Peter Murphy Lewis. He is a documentary maker who just came out with a multi-part documentary on caregivers, and I'm just super excited to speak with him as a creator. Peter, most of us don't ever get a chance to, I don't get a chance to talk to documentary makers. Could you just briefly tell us, like, what's your background? Where did you come from? How did you become a documentary maker?
Yeah, well, thank you for the invite. For 44 years of my life, I had never met a documentarian, nor was I a documentarian myself, nor have I ever taken a class of media, marketing, or film or anything like that. Only for the last year of my life. So I'm 45, but only for the last year have I met one or been one. So I used to be a numbers guy. I was, great at math and science. For
Wow.
some reason, in college, I studied humanities and sociology, I think, because it was hard for me. And then, in the last 10 years, I would say I really discovered that I'm more of a creative and ended up becoming a documentarian through two small things that happened. I got recruited to become a TV host about 10 years ago. In South America, I have a TV show similar to Dirty Jobs. And the stars aligned about 4 or 5 years ago when I was working in healthcare. I became a certified nurse's assistant, a CNA, and I was at a state convention. And I told the association, I said, why don't we take my experience in South America of doing TV, and why don't we do a version of a documentary around frontline caregivers in healthcare? And they said yes. I think at the point after I heard yes, I was a little bit nervous. I wish they would have said no. I was scared, but we pulled it off, and we've had a lot of success in the last year.
That's amazing. So background somehow South America. I'm not even gonna ask you how you got to South America and did TV there. And you brought that TV background, the production background into this work you're doing as a CNA.
Mm.
And again, more questions to be asked there. And you said, now what about your work as a CNA? I mean, there are lots of CNAs out there. This is not I don't mean to any insult at all here or critique, but frontline CNA work, one would not think of TV, of documentary. It's hard work. It's everyone knows who's ever been exposed to it. So critically important. The frontline CNA, in my experience, both as a patient and caregiver, oftentimes the most empathetic person I come into contact with is the CNA, and they really are lifesavers. So I truly, both as a physician and as a patient and caregiver, appreciate CNAs. But one doesn't think of that as sexy work. What made you think that that work was important to be showcased in a multi-part documentary, which I understand now is on, all the major outlets, Amazon, Hulu, Netflix,
Yeah.
etc. I mean, live now, and going out to, hundreds of millions of televisions all over the country. So what made you think this would be a really good thing to document?
I didn't think that it was ever going to have the success that it has so far. So we started off with pretty simple goals, which was a 20-minute short film documentary to go on YouTube that the healthcare association, the Nebraska Healthcare Association, could use to for recruiting and for the staffing shortage. And the idea was that they were going to put it into their middle school and high school curriculum, because they have a program with the education department where they get to have a career day and they get to show young students how healthcare can be part of their life and it can make an impact. Well, 3 days into filming, I called the president and executive, and I said, Jaylene, this is not a 20-minute documentary. We have 20 minutes from every single day of filming, and this is going to be big. Are you okay if this is a 7-part series? We were filming 7 days, 7 different nursing homes, and it was going to be a 20-minute documentary. And I knew right away, I said, can this be a 7-part series that's going to be 20 minutes each? And she said, I trust you. Go with it. And so it started off small, and
Hmm.
I was nervous. I didn't know if filming residents would be beautiful on television, be authentic. I didn't know if filming caregivers would
Hmm.
work. What I
Hmm.
knew is the stories would work. And the reason is, as a marketer, I've been a marketer since I started my first company 20 some years ago. Uh, I have found that when you introduce stories to misperceptions we have, stories help change our opinion. Ken Burns has taught us this, and when I worked in tourism, it taught me this, and then when I worked in podcasts, when we listen to somebody long format, we are open to changing our opinion, right? Like what I thought, I grew up in Kansas. What I thought in the 1990s of the gay demographic is different than what I thought after my roommate in college was gay. What I thought of people with AIDS in 1995 was different than my first
Mm,
job out of college, where I worked as an HIV/AIDS caseworker. Stories changed my opinion, and I realized documentaries could as well. And my experience of CNAs was fabulous. What people talked about long-term care outside of it who didn't have experience was negative. And I knew that
mm.
contrast could be changed, and that gap was where I was interested.
So it started out as a 20-minute really job recruitment video for to go into schools to get people interested, young folks interested in perhaps going into being a CNA. Is that
Mhm. That's
that's
right.
where it started?
Yeah.
And very quickly into the project, it sounds to me like the purpose and the message changed. And so what what did you, and you just described this notion that the power of storytelling in terms of changing how people think about things, and therefore I think, I imagine their behaviors and what comes out of that, how they spend their money, et cetera, et cetera. But what what was the story? What were you trying to through the storytelling process, what were you trying to get people to understand or to see? And perhaps what action did you want from it? You seem like a very purpose-driven person. I mean, even your background, you're not there just telling a story. There's a purpose and reason. So what was that about?
It grew when I realized that we were achieving a quality of showing these people's lives in a unique manner. So it started off with something basic, which I always say this, and people tell me I should change my verb, but I always say my goal is to steal teenagers away from the retail world. So take that 17-year-old who's going to go work at Walmart on a weekend
Yeah.
and turn them into a CNA, and show them that they can have a very rewarding work. And it's a two-way relationship.
Hmm.
And that grew into changing the perception of long term care with the 50% of the population who has a neutral or negative opinion. Once I started to get some feedback, and there's a couple specific
Hmm.
moments of feedback that there's a before and after in for me, right? The first one was after the premiere. We showed this at a beautiful red carpet premiere in a theater in Nebraska with the people who were in the documentary, with sponsors, with politicians, with lobbyists, with advocates. And one of the investors in a hospice came up to me afterwards and he said, I always knew what my business partner does is beautiful. I did this for a financial reason. And you just showed me that what I did was amazing for humanity. I'm so proud of what my team does. Thank you. And that made a big impact, right? I come from banking. My family comes from banking.
Hmm.
When you can make somebody who thinks of numbers feel that way, I realized that we had a chance to get somewhere bigger. And then about a month afterwards, I saw a post on social media from a woman. I would guess she's in her 70s. And she said, I just binged watched a documentary called People Worth Caring About. I watched every single episode in one sitting. It changed my perception of long-term care forever. If I'm ever
Wow.
privileged to live in a long-term care facility, I will be honored. Thank you for what you just did. And wow, I like just saying that out loud.
Wow.
It almost makes me tear
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
because I knew that I was no longer just taking people from Walmart. I knew that I could impact how people think about the caregivers who took care of my grandparents because I have
Hmm.
a positive perception of those people.
Hmm. So the documentary is called People Worth Caring About.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's accessible now through what channels, where
You
can
can find
people?
them all. There's been 3 seasons. We are booked for two more. Next year, we're filming two more, and we already have four more that are interested. And all 3 seasons are now on YouTube. And the first season was accepted about a month ago onto every smart television in the United States. So if you season one, just voice command on your TV tonight, say, hey, people worth caring about, and you're going to be able to go watch the first season of 7 episodes. And if you want to see 2 and 3, we've also submitted those to Netflix and Amazon. Will be on YouTube until they get accepted.
People worth caring about. What is your hope if you got your if you could blink and get what you wanted out of this, what would happen?
Mm. It's simple but hard. I would love for every state in the nation to use 1 or 2 episodes, cut it up in any way they want. I don't care about copyrights or trademarks, cut it up and use it for their own interests. And they would have a simple campaign, which would be if you watch this video and you know a caregiver, tag them in this social media post and say thank you because you've done a thankless job for so long. And now I know what you do 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. When I'm at home on Thanksgiving, you might be working a double shift. And then tag somebody under the age of 20 who wants to make a difference. People complain about Gen Zs and millennials all the time.
Mm.
What we do know is if you find what motivates them and you give them a why, we quit complaining. So tag somebody who has a big heart under the age of 20 and let them see that they can make a career of long-term care. And this will be very, very rewarding.
Mm. So what did you actually film?
Yeah, I'll go into the technical side first. So we walked into 7 nursing homes with my cell phone that I'm showing you right now. Anyone who's watching this on YouTube and not a podcast, with this cell phone, I recorded with one camera and then with a Sony EV10, which is a camera that I bought off eBay for $600 or something. And we filmed with a camera and a cell phone in 7 different nursing homes. And the nursing homes were provided to us. They gave us a list of about 20 from Nebraska, and my director, who I've worked with in television for 10 years, she whittled that down to 7. And we just did kind of this in-person docuseries, and it's a first person. You watch me walk around with the cell phone, just like you would film if you were, following your kids. If you walked around New York or Paris or Orlando, and then we just tried to capture why people love this job and be curious and ask lots of questions. I think you'll understand this stuff. Um, I find that in the United States, as we get older, from about the age of 12 or 13 on, we teach kids if you ask questions, you look stupid. And
Mm.
in the US, we try to always look smart. So we ask fewer questions as we get older. If you don't care about looking stupid and you are comfortable asking lots of questions, people are gonna want to watch that because those are the questions they want to ask. And I think that's the recipe for why this works. I ask the questions that everyone wants to ask because I'm comfortable being stupid. To give you some stats that
Mm.
I found out yesterday. So I was on a call with 2 of our documentary partners, and we were talking about how they were having such an impact from these documentaries inside of their own states and with their members. And we were kind of sharing notes so we could learn from each other. And one of the partners said, hey, the School of Gerontology is including this in their curriculum. The other partner said the School of Nursing at the largest university in our state is including this in their curriculum so that some nurses will not go into acute and they'll consider long-term care. And I had somebody watch it say, hey, Peter, I just forwarded this to the president of the National Association of Pharmacy. I would like for us to watch this at the upcoming convention. I said, let me share with you what I just saw in YouTube stats. Zev, we just started a YouTube channel recently, like 6 months ago, probably 0 views for the first month. In the last month, we had 170,000 people watch parts of People Worth Caring About who had never seen a clip of it before. 66% were men, which is not common for long-term
Mm.
care. We think long-term care is 50-year-old women taking care of 80-year-old women. 66% of the people who are watching are men,
Mm.
and almost 50% are younger than the age of 34, right? I'm
Wow.
not a YouTuber. I don't know what I'm doing. But something about these stories resonates with men under the age of 34.
So if you can sum up what, well, first of all, what would you like the viewers to walk away with? If they're sort of in the story, if there's a lesson, a message, a perception, what do you what and then this follow up with what did you personally learn about
Mm.
caregiving? Because you've been in the business, you were a CNA, and so you knew it, but what did you learn? So
Hmm.
First, what do you want others to walk away with, and then what did you learn? I'm really curious about both of those.
I think the walk away is uh, caregiving. You don't need a title to be a caregiver. My grandparents had dementia and Alzheimer's, and my father went to their room almost every single day, and he was a caregiver. And he made the CNAs realize that I always use the word CNAs are architects of memories. They're designers of the amazing last stage of your life. They're
Mm,
not just a CNA. And my father made them feel that way. And I want anyone who watches this to know that your parents or your grandparents and us someday are going to be in a nursing home. And we can be caregivers today. We don't need to change somebody or transfer somebody from bed to a wheelchair to start today. The second thing is if you don't feel comfortable, like if aging and dementia and death terrifies you and nursing homes are scary to you, like so many people in the US,
mm,
that's okay. Be aware of it,
mm,
share it with somebody who's not. COVID interrupted a generation of people who used to go volunteer at nursing homes. When I was little, I
mm,
went to a nursing home
mm.
probably once a month.
Wow.
And that was interrupted. So go find that 12-year-old who didn't go to a nursing home for 3 years because of COVID and show it to them and ask them if they can go play cards with somebody, go play Jenga with somebody, go play bingo with someone. That intergenerational friendship is critical for America's society for how we exist. And then your second question, Zev, around what did I learn? Mm,
Yeah, what surprised you? Was there anything that surprised you that said, "Wow, I didn't know that," even as much as I know about this world?
I guess Mm, I think that while I knew that CNAs got something from their work, I had no idea that they actually probably get more from their work than the residents do. You take home so much purpose and meaning and stories and warmth and relationships that nobody's doing it in there for the pay. If you're a CNA, you're making $1 to $2 less than what you can at most retail places. Your job is a lot harder. You're on your feet, and is a lot more thankless. But you're taking home something that you can't get anywhere else.
I hope a little bit of you rubs off on me. I really do. And I hope you see that as a compliment because I really genuinely mean that. Um, when the CNAs, when the folks who you were videotaping saw the video, what was their reaction? And do you think they learned something from it?
Oh, unreal. A large percentage of them came to the premiere, and saw themselves as movie stars, right? Like they when you're on the big screen and we were sold out with sponsors and vendors and I don't know 400 people, and they had professional photographers and it was just like walking into the Emmys. They had lights and all of them come in and they are the stars. It was really really special. I'll share a couple anecdotes that were important to me. The one of the gentlemen from one of my favorite episodes, his name is Jace. He's in the episode with hospice in the very first season. If you see it, it'll be impactful because
Hmm.
he takes care of a woman who is about to pass. She's nonverbal. She's on machines and she types her messages on her cell phone to him, and they have this beautiful, beautiful relationship. Well, I just found out last week because I met his boss and one of the owners. She told me that the documentary and seeing him on the big stage on the big screen gave him the confidence to go become a nurse, and he's gonna
Wow.
go become a nurse. And the other example is a gentleman named Chris. He's in the episode of Broken Bow, and I went and gave a keynote 2 weeks ago at that state association, and I asked his boss if there's a chance that he could come to my keynote, and they brought Chris. And Chris, I didn't know Chris's story until afterwards. Full story. Chris was blind from the age of 2 to 22, and he saw light when he was 22 years old. And he was kind of, I don't want to say he was a dropout, but he was kind of figuring out where he wanted to be in life. And he worked in a nursing home and he had this big burly kind of railroadman teach him how beautiful this work was. And he got taught by a male mentor who was just this, could have been playing for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And he taught him how to care for other gentlemen. And Chris really changed my life. There's a before and after and me for me when I saw how this, tough guy wants to spend the rest of his life being a CNA. And I asked him to come to keynote, and I went down off stage with my cell phone and created stories where I walked around and recorded people to share who are caregivers that had changed their life. And I went back and found him and told him, and it just made me tear up. And the last one, Zev, is when I did the premiere in Ohio, one of the gentlemen who is probably, I don't know, 30 years old, and he's got special needs or differing needs. He came in his wheelchair with his parents, and he said, "You came to see me on the big screen. You came to see my movie."
Oh,
So
wow.
he knew the movie was about him, and we were the audience coming to see him. That was really, really beautiful.
So, yeah, wow. I, I'm just, I can feel what, like what you've done for the CNAs. I mean, just that alone is another part to it, which is just miraculous. CNAs all over the country, all over the world. To your point, I don't think that profession, that group gets recognized. Clearly, they don't get paid, enough for what they do, well enough compared to others in healthcare. How have you were filming patients too as part of this? And I don't know if you interviewed the patients or spoke to the patients, but what was the reaction of patients or the family members, the caregivers of the patients to this film?
Very moving because if the average American has a negative perception of nursing homes, so do residents, right? Residents usually end up in a nursing home after a discharge from a hospital, and they don't want to move into a nursing home. It feels like they're losing autonomy. It
Mm.
feels like it's their last stage of life. Many people think that's where they're going to die. And when you meet these amazing caregivers that take care of these amazing residents, the residents are so thankful because just like my perception was changed when I worked with these CNAs, the residents as well, right? I don't have to go live in a nursing home. So imagine the bridge, imagine the gap between what they think that they're going to do and what it is for me as a viewer just watching on my television. For them, it's a stark contrast and it's way more beautiful than they ever imagined. And they want to use as much time on camera as possible to tell me. They know it's not about them. They know it's about the caregivers. And these are smart 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old people who like, this is not about me, but they want to give a testimonial saying, thank you for showing the lives of these people who give me dignity in
Wow.
the darkness when no one else is watching. These people make my last 5, 10, 15 years of my life amazing.
Wow, that's amazing that these elderly patients are pointing the light back to the CNAs. That's God, that's a part, such a positive part of humanity. Again, super inspiring. Who do you hope watches this? And, kind of final question here in terms of, and you mentioned before you very much want this to get into the hands of the states, and you know who in particular would you like to have contact you? How would they contact you? How would they get access to these films? What would you like them, what would you recommend they do with the films in terms of um and to what end? Yeah.
Yeah, I would love for any educator or some policymaker who's somewhat close to education to show one episode of this in their high school. And we'll do a screening. I'm happy to join. I do lots and lots of screenings. I can join from Zoom. I don't have to do it in person. And inspire this younger generation to realize the need that we have in the US to take care of our parents and our grandparents, how beautiful the work is so that we appreciate these caregivers in a different way, let them know that they can volunteer, and that you can build a career out of this. I met a woman last week. Her name is Jessica Guerrero, and I was telling her about this episode in season 2 in Ohio at a nursing home called Covenant Village, where two sisters used to work in Subway. and the activities director recruited the sisters from Subway to work in the nursing home, and now they won't work anywhere else. And Jessica told me on the podcast, she said, Peter, I also worked at Subway and I was also recruited. And she became a CNA and now she's the administrator,
Wow.
right? 2 decades and now she's the boss.
That's so cool. Peter, I know you have to get to your next appointment. Any final word? And again, I just thank you for the life lessons. Thank you for your focus on CNAs, and I would love to follow up with you and do a part two and maybe dive into some of the actual stories.
Thank you so much, Zev. I'd love to have you on my podcast, People Worth Caring About, and hear your reaction after you watch it. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. I know what I'm doing this weekend. Thanks, Peter. Take care.